But what I do think is important that, you have been doing an amazing amount of work on is the Rothschilds. And it's still considered a taboo subject. You're not supposed to talk about it.
Right.
However, if there is an eye of the hurricane that is Zionist Judaism, it's them. They are the family. They are the mafia. They are the Jewish mafia family. They are the ones.
Who?
The Rothschilds.
Yes, let him get into the story about that, because that's what Zach's big research is about. We're going to learn about the Rothschilds.
Ooh, the Rothschilds.
No, I'm stealing it from Travers. Trav,
that's dope. I'm going to steal that too.
Travers is our Irishman friend who lives in Scotland. But yes.
Oh, I love that. The worldwide audience. Yeah, we're building out. Frankly, man, it's been probably 3 years now of study into just the history of the economy and the history of the people that jacked everything up. I mean, I got started into this. I just want to sell homes, and all of a sudden people couldn't buy homes, and I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
And from the Vatican, the original central bank on, I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. I'm starting to see some patterns, and it's funny because the Rothschilds, if you were to look them up on Google, for example, you're going to see every single item and article and Reddit feed that's going to say, oh, this is a conspiracy. Oh, this is just an anti-Semitic trope. And it's not. They funded both sides in the Napoleonic Wars. They funded in the War of 1812. They funded, tried to fund at the very least, a civil war. And Abe said, no, we're going to do greenbacks. And then I believe it was 1893, the Rothschilds and JP Morgan bailed out America. We ran out of gold. They said, hey, here's $65 million worth of gold. There was probably no quid pro quo there, none. Right. And then it only took about 15 years later after that to have a meeting at Jekyll Island to create our own Federal Reserve. And you look at Iran, they're one of the 9 countries that currently exist that do not have a Rothschild-backed central bank. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And what I also don't think is a coincidence is the media's silence on one of the most named people in the Epstein files. Over 12,000 mentions of the Rothschilds. Lynn Forrester Rothschild is the one who got Epstein connected with Clinton, with Bush, Prince Andrew, Ron Lauder, you name it.
You're talking literal, like the literal descendants.
Yeah.
Of the Rothschilds, correct. Like the current people.
Correct.
Of that family. Right.
Lynn Forrester Rothschild. Yes, she married into the family. And I think it's very strategic, by the way, that the couple people from the Edmund de Rothschild and Lynn Forrester, people that married into the bloodline, seemingly are doing the most boots on ground work. Because if we got to cut somebody out or someone has to go to jail, it's not really blood. And these people are still to this day heavily involved in this entire, it's not even pedophilia. We're talking about weapons trafficking. We're talking about actual human sacrifice. I mean, everything is on the table. And these people are right in the center of it. So how much longer can we just all agree that this is some anti-Semitic trope? I don't give a care if they're Jewish. I didn't know they were Jewish when I started researching them. I truly just want to know the facts on why is this economy jacked up, who's benefiting from it, and these gigantic incestual families that have generational wealth and bank ownership. I mean, hell, they own the Bank of England. What are we talking about here? What are we arguing about? There is an anti-Semitic to point out the oligarchic control of the worldwide economy that's happened for centuries now, and it's still the same names, and it's the same names that created the Jeffrey Epsteins. So why are they not getting any news panels? Why am I not seeing any other creators talking about it?
And
right.
The thing that I think is very important to point out here, and you can see the type of, who the people are on social media that play into their team. It could be the blue team, could be the red team. They all get the same memos. They put the same talking points out there. They're in WhatsApp chats or in private group chats. Here's what we're talking about. Here's what we're going to do. They mentioned the fact that Trump is in the Epstein files tens of thousands of times, and that other people have been hidden many times over. But you know who they have never mentioned as a concern? And this is people on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. There is no fucking mention of the Rothschilds. No
None.
one touches it.
And to that last comment, around the marrying of their cousins, it wasn't even just that. So Mayor Amschel Rothschild was one of the first prominent Rothschilds in the mid 1700s. He had 5 sons, sent them to 5 different regions of Europe to start the 5 different banks. And those 5 sons all had anywhere between 2 to 5 kids. I wish I could bring up the corruption map we're building. I'll mention that here in a bit. But I'm actually building out the timeline and where and when they did certain things. Oh yeah, it's the web of corruption we're building is simply out of 3 years of research. I'm now frustrated. I'm like, I've said so much, I need it all in one place so I can just hand it to someone and say, go look, go read. It's like a little museum.
Yeah.
And from those 5 sons on, all of them, not some of them, all of them married a cousin. 2 of them married their own uncles, like nieces. Just to keep it in the family, and we even have the most recent, the one who talks like this, who just passed away about 2-3 years ago, live on stage saying, "Yeah, we've been known to keep love in the family."
Yeah, you're talking about is it David Rothschild?
It's like old school.
It's David or James.
Stuff. It's old school monarchy stuff. The inbreeding is commonly known. I mean, that's
it's not exclusive to them for sure.
No.
Yeah, that is, if, they always say, if you want to know who's in control, know who you can't talk about, know who you can't insult. If you talk about, they call it Jews, but truly it's Israel and Zionist Judaism, you are crossing a Rubicon that you're not allowed to cross. And the same is true when it comes to the Rothschilds. They are, for all intents and purposes, the most powerful family in the world because they truly control the banking system. And when you control money, essentially, he who makes the gold or owns the gold makes the rules. And they make the rules. And their rules are as tyrannical as any in the history of this world.
Yep. And then you get the Osiri family and the Goldschmidt family, and you see the same names that pop up all the time. And again, you're just not allowed to talk about them. I've had my own videos. In fact, ever since the Ellison family took over TikTok 2 different times, I've talked about the Rothschilds taken down. I'm 1 strike away from having my whole account wiped out.
Well, don't worry. We're already a shadow banned channel, so let us catch the heat. I mean, that's really the whole point.
Yeah, we get it too. We're not,
So I want you, let's not get too conspiratorial, but this is a part of the Rothschilds legacy that I don't think ever really, this is the real part of the legacy that is interconnected with the creation of the Federal Reserve that I really don't think people truly understand. There is a hell of a conspiracy surrounding the sinking of the Titanic and why it happened. There is a belief that it was sunk on purpose. And the fact that you had, I think it was the Lusitania that was only about 19 knots away from where the ship actually sank. And then, of course, the argument was, all these other ships that were in the North Atlantic somehow were several hours away, and they all got the distress signal. Yet the one ship that was less than an hour away, somehow the person went to sleep, and no one knew about it. And 3 of the most powerful men in the entire world, John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Strauss, were all on this ship.
Correct. And that's not conspiratorial because it's also a ship. It was financed and built by J.P. Morgan.
But who was the one person that was supposed to be on that ship, but just magically decided not to show up at the last minute?
Didn't go on the maiden voyage of the greatest ship that he helped create. That's wild, isn't it?
But his bags made it onto the ship. That was always a very interesting part of the story.
So do you not see the parallel that is nothing but like we rehashed that again with 9/11 and Larry Silverstein?
Right.
You see what I mean? Like, it's just the same plot. They keep
Howard Lutnick not being there too.
Exactly, right? It's the same thing. It's a financial gain from death and destruction of other people that to those people are completely expendable. Like,
and I tell you what, the hardest part about things like 9/11 and the Titanic being sunk is, well, we wouldn't kill. There's thousands of people that died. Like, how dare you come against the narrative when so many people died? It's like, guys, we got to get to the point where we understand that if the powers that be can benefit from it, they do not care. And that very boat that went down, whether or not purposeful, happened to be very circumstantially beneficial because that meeting that happened in 1910 following the state bank panic in 1907 was at a J.P. Morgan invested resort with JP Morgan's associates and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, hosted by Nelson Aldrich, the senator at the time, presented it to Congress saying it was his idea. And they said, no, this favors Wall Street too much. And so it went through 2 years of name changes and giving a little here and a little there. They end up making 13 banks instead of just one. That was one of their big, like, okay. And the president gets to actually appoint the chairman. They're like, okay. And then all of a sudden, we have the Pujo Committee in 1912, same year that the Titanic goes down, investigating, is this a giant money trust? And what's crazy about it is, in all my research I can find, they said, yeah, it is. About 60% of the money is held by about 8 banks. So they found out, yes, this is a money trust. And then a boat goes down. And then December 23rd of 1913, with about 27 different lawmakers on Christmas recess, it passes. And I don't think it's conspiratorial at all, because you look at the people involved, you look at the benefit that they receive from it, it all makes sense. And that's where I think a lot of the people that talk against these talking points, claiming that they're tropes, claiming they're just conspiracy, the thought process they'll give, or the argument they'll give, even if they'll give one, because a lot they'll just say, you're anti-Semitic, and just leave. It doesn't make sense. It makes complete sense for a powerful family want to keep power by eliminating its enemies.
I think about maybe the most, everybody talks about, again, the consensus in Washington, D.C., because it's such a neoliberal democratic town. Mm-hmm. You think about all of the different consultancy agencies that pop up. I always revert to SKD Knickerbocker and the Center for American Progress as the two most prominent within the Democratic establishment. Who funds these organizations? Zionist billionaires are the ones who fund them. This is not a secret. So when the talking points go out there and you see somebody like Neera Tanden, for example, say the despicable things that she would say about Bernie Sanders, for example, back in the day, it isn't because she was just thinking them up on her own. It's because Bernie Sanders, the real Bernie Sanders of 2015 and 2016, represented a movement of left populism that hadn't been seen in the United States since Eugene Debs. And when you have someone that is espousing that type of radical messaging, you have to put them down like a dog. You don't have a choice, because otherwise your whole system breaks. Just as Jen and I were discussing earlier, Ben Bernanke, who everybody talks about when he was put in front of the House Select Committee and talking about whether or not you can just put numbers on a keyboard and magically more dollars appear. Yes. But no one talks about when Ron Paul asked him, is gold money? And he said, no, it's not. So in so many respects, for so long, most people didn't see this. They didn't want to see it. But now they really don't have a choice but to see it. And when the dots are all connected, revolution is inevitable because the trust in the system is dead. How can you? The president of the United States is asked today by a reporter. Jen, you probably didn't see this, but the reporter asked him, so it appears that your war with Iran is over. Yeah, we're totally ending the war. So then why do you need another $200 billion for Iran? Well, it'd be really nice to have that money. Well,
this is the same person that said they could have just, stopped it, but it was more fun to torpedo.
Right. Why are 5,000 Marines in the 82nd Airborne Division being sent out to the Strait of Hormuz?
Because they have it all under control. No, they're not even going to make it to land. No.
They're not.
No.
And that to me is the true sin of sins. And the idea that you just think that, especially people that wear the uniform, that you can just kill them off. And I can imagine for you in particular, like, it flies in the face of everything that you were taught, everything that you did to serve this country, and knowing full well that almost all of it is bullshit. Now, I do believe 1,000% in providing for the common defense. I think having a strong military is absolutely essential when you consider how fertile the land is here in the United States. I think having that is essential. Do you need 800 that you know of military bases around the world? Do you need to have this unholy alliance between, as I often say, if you want to know who truly is in control, the second you fly into DCA which is Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C., what's the first thing you see when you land? Lockheed Martin's headquarters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's right there. So they're letting you know.
You see that before you see the Pentagon, but 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
But therein lies the rub, which is if you really have to question who's in control. I remember when an FBI agent was saying at the beginning of Trump's first term, saying, presidents come and go, but us FBI will be here forever. It's like, wow, they're really just letting it out. They're not hiding how much, first of all, how much disdain they have for the average person, but also that the permanent state that was created by the likes of J. Edgar Hoover and Allen Dulles has come to fruition. It's never gone away. It's still there.
J. Edgar Hoover, the same person who had sexual blackmail on him from the Roy Cohns, who was Trump's best friend. Talked to him. It was the last person he had a phone call with. And it's funny you bring up Lockheed Martin, because I got into a discussion the other day with someone claiming, oh, well, all the money that we send them, that we send to Israel, comes back into America. And I said, you're a smart person. You're a smart person, okay? So you need to extend that timeline one way each direction. Because A, the American government does not send money to Israel. Our taxpayer money goes into Israel. That is our money that is going over there. And then we need to go one further step on the other side of the timeline of when it comes back to America, because that is correct, that the money we send them, they use to spend on warfare and other things. A small amount goes toward just whatever they'd like to do, but it's small. It's like 11%. The majority of it goes toward military spend. Who is getting that money? Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and the military industrial complex. Right. So how is that benefiting you, sir? You're a smart guy. How's that benefiting you?
I'll tell you how it does. There is one way that it does. And I was seeing a girl for a brief period of time back in the day who worked for Lockheed Martin. And when I tell you that they pay these people well, they pay them very well. And that's how they keep them silent. So when you think about all the jobs that the State Department creates and all the alphabet agencies, you've seen probably from satellite imagery how big the NSA is, how big the CIA is in Langley. These people that work there, they get paid big. They're paid big.
Oh, dude, when I was deployed in 2014, I was signal tech, right? And we worked in an office for 2 months at a Polish fob. There's only about 20 Americans there. And we had one civilian contractor who worked for Boeing. And I made, I think, like $48,000 a year, maybe $52,000, because they give us a little bit of a tax benefit. He at one point, in just a joking manner, said, oh no. He said, I make what you make a year in a paycheck. And I was like, BS. And then he showed it to me. $36,300 in one paycheck. So throughout the month, he's making, and he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. We did the work. The E4s did the work. You're absolutely right. They get paid enough to not care, which is one of the biggest reasons we're seeing this happening right now, in my opinion, because when I look at the economic effects throughout the decades, I can see clearly why in the 70s no one gave a shit. Because they could buy a house on one job. They could support their family and fill a grocery cart without having to worry about the government. They're like, you know, you do what you do, at least I can survive. American dream, baby. Like I just did a video today. It was a skit I reposted on like the timeline from Reagan on of like the guy supporting America. Be like, okay, big government, you go do it. And it's slowly become like, yo, what are you doing? Because we can't survive normally anymore on one job. We need two just to be able to afford a basic townhome in our neighborhood. And crossing back into the Epstein side of things, and the reason I still don't think people care about it enough, and why we don't talk about the Rothschilds, I'm stealing that enough, maybe they'll protect me from the algorithms, is who sent Robert Maxwell to America?
Exactly.
Who brought that gentleman to America? Who sent him to New York City for their merger and acquisition of the textbook company McGraw-Hill? Macmillan Inc. was what it was named at that time.
Correct.
It was the Rothschilds who ended up getting sent to New York within 6 months of Robert's death. Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, okay. Got it. So you could see the orchestration, and then, he meets Epstein, and then they're moving in this home, and then they move next door, and then he gets to pick his neighbor, who happens to be the guy who survives 9/11, profits off 9/11, and now is a Secretary of Commerce that is getting no flack from all the clear and obvious corruption he's been involved in. I don't get why more people aren't making noise about that.